welcome. Thank you all for joining us for this panel on building sustainable communities. We would like to start with a land acknowledgement. We gratefully acknowledge that we are on the lands that have been inhabited by Indigenous peoples for millennia. As Canadians, we are thankful for the opportunity to live, work, and play here. We honor and uphold the first environmental agreement, the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. We thank all who have served and continue to share as stewards of this special place. I would now like to introduce our panelists for this discussion, Ellen Savoia, Corey Burant, and Samantha Witkowski. Ellen and Corey both work for Niagara Parks and are members of the unique partnership between Brock University and Niagara Parks, the Excellence in Environmental Stewardship Initiative. Ellen has a background in environmental studies as well as landscape architecture, and her work as a registered professional planner is focused on public land use and environmental policy. In her role with Niagara Parks, Ellen leads the environmental planning team, overseeing the environmental stewardship of the 1,325 hectares of Niagara Parks lands. Corey has a background as a wildlife ecologist and has worked with numerous government agencies, organizations, educational institutions, and industry partners. In January 2012, Corey joined Niagara Parks, contributing to its mandate of protecting the natural heritage of the Niagara River corridor. In his current role as project manager of forest health, Corey oversees various wildlife conservation and ecotourism related initiatives, including the sustainable management of Niagara Parks natural areas, trails, species at risks, and aquatic habitats. Samantha recently completed her master's at Brock University, working within the partnership between Niagara Parks and Brock. In her thesis research, she investigated stakeholder perceptions in different monitoring and evaluation approaches for environmental planning and management. She now continues her work as a research assistant and partnership coordinator within the ESRC, furthering projects focused on stewardship as well as contributing to the development of Building Sustainable Communities course. Corey, Ellen, Samantha, through the course Building Sustainable Communities, the Impact of Engagement, students have learned key concepts in building sustainable communities such as community engagement, collaboration, and monitoring and evaluation. As you all have worked within the Excellence for Environmental Stewardship Partnership and have considerable experience with monitoring and evaluation techniques, we are really looking forward to hearing your perspective on these concepts. So now we can begin our discussion. The first question is, students in the Building Sustainable Communities, the Impact of Engagement course have learned about the spectrum of monitoring and evaluation approaches. What approaches to monitoring and evaluation are used at Niagara Parks? And can you also provide us with an example of how the process is used?
Who wants to start that one?
Well, I'll just quickly, like Niagara Parks has actually had very limited monitoring that has taken place. Our capacity in the past has been somewhat limited financially and with limited staff. So we've been trying recently to, and certainly our work with Brock University has really helped us take another look at opportunities to advance monitoring and using different tools in technology as well as citizen science.
Yeah, to Ellen's point, Niagara Parks has been kind of lacking on the monitoring and evaluation piece. Again, resources, usually when we do projects, we have external funding, which doesn't necessarily cover the monitoring piece, or the project just kind of ends. But we do have some examples where we do use it. For one, our Chippewa Grassland and Restoration Project, that one's a bit more of a conventional. We have a consultant come and do point count surveys of what the species are that are there, the vegetation that's growing. And so that's been very useful. Like, we didn't have the information. We know that species at risk are coming back to the site, so the project is successful. But then we can use that to expand into the other areas of the park. One thing we really relied on was trail counters. So monitoring how many people are actually using our trail systems. Up to 2013, we had no idea. And I think when we installed these counters, we found how how much more use there was than we anticipated. And we've also seen how this has grown, so we've been able to adjust our work plans around that. So definitely a progress that we're going towards.
Sorry, Corey, you mentioned that the technique that you used was more conventional. So students have learned about the spectrum of approaches being precipitory and conventional. So could you just maybe speak to what the conventional process looks like for Niagara Parks?
Again, it's really just using baseline data and not really, there's no real social aspect to it. It's mostly what's on the ground at that time, and then hopefully compared to previous years. And that's about it. It's pretty basic.
Thank you. That's wonderful. So Samantha's thesis work examined the perceptions of stakeholders in monitoring and evaluation of scenic viewpoints at Niagara Parks. Samantha, can you describe your thesis work a little more for us?
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, my thesis work was conducted in collaboration with the Niagara Parks Commission and was made possible through the Excellence in Environmental Stewardship Initiative. And what's so great about these kinds of partnerships is that we can explore these important topics and issues in sort of real world scenarios. So to get into the details of the study we are talking about today, the overall objective was to examine how different stakeholder groups perceive key performance indicators, or KPIs, for the management of scenic viewpoints across Niagara Parks' iconic landscape. And this was seen as an important avenue of inquiry given the Niagara Park Commission's mandate to protect and preserve the natural environment while at the same time offering rich visitor experiences. So we needed to better understand the perception of those different visitors so that they can be reflected or integrated into appropriate environmental management strategies and monitoring and evaluation efforts in the future. And so in this study, we looked at a more conventional monitoring and evaluation approach combined with the perceptions, the social perceptions of stakeholders, which made sense for this context because Niagara Parks covers such a vast expanse of land with different management approaches required at different locations. So logistically and practically, that really impacts the level of involvement of different stakeholders in this process. And so in the study, we surveyed residents of the Niagara region, tourists, as well as the environmental managers responsible for these sites. And we asked them about indicators related to, for example, the vegetation, accessibility, view quality, and so on. And essentially the results revealed where groups had similar perceptions of a site or where there were maybe nuanced differences in perceptions. And so ultimately this provides some baseline information regarding visitor preferences for management actions and can ultimately help to enhance future management decisions at these sites.
Thank you so much for sharing about your project. Corey and Ellen, what were Niagara Parks' takeaways from this research in the conventional monitoring and evaluation process?
Well, I think for us, again, we've always been lacking that social aspect. So understanding, I guess in a way we have tunnel vision. We do things a certain way and we think that's the proper way, but maybe it's not what people see or want to see. So I think Samantha's work is great for actually providing that external perspective, alternative perspective, really. What is it that people are looking for? We can create efficiencies by maybe we don't need to target certain sites if they don't care about certain things, for one. Vegetation, we worry about invasive species, but maybe they just see green and that's fine. So maybe we don't, from a public perspective, it's not necessarily critical that we're targeting invasive species at some of these sites. Maybe people don't use some of these sites. They don't see value, so maybe we don't necessarily use those viewpoints anymore. So I think it's created a lot of ability for us to incorporate other people's, again, perspectives, and then how do we tailor our management towards that? And we've seen it within our viewpoint management strategy. We've been able to tailor it, prioritize our high maintenance sites based on some of the Samantha's work. So it's been very beneficial to us so far.
Thanks, Corey. Has there been, oh, sorry, Ellen, would you like to say something?
No, I'm yeah.
Okay. My apologies. So to both of you, have there been any notable challenges or great successes from using monitoring and evaluation practices at Niagara Parks?
Well, I think, we did already sort of touch on it briefly. Like, the challenges have always been our capacity to be able to do it, you've been challenged with having a lack of data in the past. I think successes as we're coming up on is that we're starting to collect this data. We're starting to be able to look and see, like just even Corey's example on the trail counters, very simple kind of data, but now we're really able to see how the visitation is growing in certain sites, potentially very much beyond the capacity of a site maybe, and that will impact how we look at managing that property, for example, in the Niagara Glen, which is, increasingly popular, it seems, especially, during the COVID lockdown, we saw the numbers go up there very drastically. So I think it demonstrates a lot of success with having data that you can compare over time. And that, I just see that also with the research that Samantha's done, how we can start to look at visitors' perceptions, or starting to think about what is that citizen science component that we can start to use that engages people. And, Cora's talking about maybe they just see green is good, but then how do we take that information and start to build in our messaging and educational opportunities so that they start to see that maybe not all green is equally good, and then they can help us with monitoring where they do see invasive species, right? That garlic mustard isn't something that is a beneficial thing when they find it on a trail system, and they can start to report that to us, right?
Yeah, I think to Ellen's point, like the communication piece, it allows us really to focus our communication efforts as well, and also identify those key performance indicators based on what we know people are looking for. So we can really focus, again, the story we want to tell and why. It's also helped us a lot, the monitoring in general, just for project success. We do a lot of grant programs, or we receive a lot of grants, and we got to report on those. A lot of times they want to know, did the project work? So we can't, without collecting any data, we don't know. So we just assume things. So the way we've been moving forward with a lot more data collection, with our partnership with Brock, that we could actually go back now and say, yes, it is working. No, it's not. We need to tweak it. We can adapt the project slightly. And then just getting those tools to allow our other staff to participate in this monitoring. And Ellen's point, even the residents, there's their eyes on the parkway. We can help them, or have them help us move our projects forward. So lots of good successes.
That's great to hear.
I'm wondering to hear from Samantha too, like where does she see that she would like us to go? Like just as, with her work, what did she see that she'd like to see advance?
Yeah, great question. And I will just say, as learners in this course we'll read about, there are many different potential challenges and benefits to implementing a monitoring and evaluation program. There's many different approaches as well. Some successes that I see reflected from this research study and the work being done through this partnership is that we're gaining that baseline understanding of local knowledges, different perceptions of these environments, and we're translating this work into evidence-based decision-making, and then ultimately making progress on the processes and methods that we use for navigating challenges in this space. So I think what's happening right now, the work being done is really starting to make those types of advances. And I think just continuing to explore those different approaches and where you can kind of, I guess, even use resources to help mitigate those challenges, resources like getting people involved, residents or other stakeholders involved could potentially be a future avenue to look into.
Thanks, Samantha. So this next question kind of builds on this further. Where would you all like to see monitoring and evaluation implemented further at Niagara Parks?
I can take that one. I'll start. I think it should be integrated in everything we do. For one, all of our environmental stewardship projects. We have, say, urban forestry management strategy. So how do we build those monitoring tools into that? to make sure that we're progressing, that we can report on that as well. And again, adapt the plan as needed further down the road. I think engaging the public through citizen science initiatives will be key. I know Ellen's keen on that. I don't know, Ellen, you want to speak more about that one?
Yes, actually, to me, it's not just where, but how. And I really would like us to take citizen science and a stronger role. There are many tools out there that are quite accessible and inexpensive. I was just recently learning more about how other groups have been using iNaturalist, for example, to connect with people who are already using their spaces and build in processes where they conduct the monitoring for them. Fantastic tool to engage people. As Corey said, even the residents was, noting that, getting them engaged. So they're the eyes right there on the park, and whether they have favorite locations. Many of those people live along the parkway because they love that location and they spend a lot of time in the park. So, if we're using tools that are easily available to them, to have them help us monitor things, that's where I'm most excited about being able to go, because I think it's really doable for us.
Thank you both. So the next question, this course is centered around building sustainable communities. With your knowledge and understanding of monitoring and evaluation, how do you see this process as useful for building sustainable communities? And additionally, have you seen it contribute to building a sustainable community at Niagara Parks?
So I think first, I think it has started to help us build a sustainable community, just even internally amongst our staff. As staff becomes more aware of monitoring, and they helped participate in the study with Samantha, and they've helped participate in many other projects that we've undertaken with Brock University. So I think that's very beneficial to understand, to build that overall sustainable community within the park itself. And then externally, I do think that as we move forward with both conventional monitoring and the participatory with iNaturalist or some other tool, that the more people understand and participate in these processes, the more you just do build a sustainable community, because they have a greater understanding and also take what would be the right way to say, vested interest, or they become connected to the environment in a different way.
I also see it's helped Niagara Parks be more reactive as opposed to, or I should say more proactive as opposed to reactive all the time. So if things happen, is it a one-off? If we have baseline data to show, like, no, this is not a trend, or it might just be a one-off, then we could accommodate that as well. It's also, I think, creating efficiencies for us. We've been able to tailor our operations based on the data we're collecting. Our project's working, some of our practices working. The park's over 135 years old. There's certain things we've done all the time. Maybe they're not the proper way to do it. So it's using those tools to maybe, again, adapt our practices, be more successful in what we're doing. So I think it's definitely going that way. I think we are becoming more sustainable, and hopefully it continues. So.
I would just add, when you are implementing processes like these, I think multiple different components of a community benefit, whether it's the actual environment itself, as well as the people involved, people visiting, or those involved in the actual process as well. So I think, yeah, very, very positive direction to be moving towards.